Hello, Taylor Elwood here with the Sacred Masculine podcast. Welcome. Today, I want to talk about the relationship between trust and safety and actually explain and share how that factors into the relationship you have with your woman. So, look, guys, here's an essential truth. Women want men that they can trust. And if you're not a man that a woman can trust, she's not going to stay with you. That's a hard truth right there, but it's an essential truth. And a lot of men struggle with understanding this. Men, we approach relationships from the perspective of what can I do to avoid having to fight with my woman? What can I do to have a harmonious, peaceful home? Because I've already been dealing with a lot at work and competing with other men and other people and all this other stuff. And the last thing I want to do is come home and fight. And also, what can I do to get laid more often? What can I do to have sex? Or what can I do to have a more affectionate relationship? And let me caveat that too, that not every single man automatically always wants more sex. I mean, that's not really the point, I guess, is what I want to say, is that but it's more along the lines of what can I do to have a harmonious, peaceful relationship where my woman is affectionate with me? And that can include sex, but may not always be sex. But here's the truth, like that approach is what causes a lot of the problems in relationships. I mean, how many of you been that man, and I'm counting myself as one of them, who your woman got angry, and what you did is you said what you thought she wanted to hear in order to pacify her, in order to get her to get the anger go away. And then what ended up happening is she got angrier and got more upset. And you're like, what did I do wrong? Like, I'm trying to make things right. I'm trying to make things peaceful, or I'm trying to solve the problem here. Well, what you did wrong was you focused on your own response to her, and you focused on your own internal motivation instead of actually paying attention to hers. You focused on, I want to have a peaceful household. I don't want to have to deal with conflict. Or I'm going to say what she wants to hear so she'll be happy and I don't have to deal with her emotions. And you know how often women have been told that they need to smile, or that they need to be pleasant or to be around? Women don't want to deal with that. And it's not fair to them. They shouldn't have to deal with that. They should be allowed to have the space to be who they want to be and show up the way that they want to show up. And we as men, we should basically, we need to basically evolve and grow and be able to be like, you know what, I can hold space. I can hold the container, even though things might not be comfortable in the moment. I can accept that my woman being upset may not have anything to do with me. In fact, more often than not, it probably doesn't. And if I don't make it about me and I actually show up and support her, it might create the relationship I actually want to have. This is foreign for men because, again, we're taught to be the provider and the protector. And in a very real sense, there is an expectation that is put on through society on men that men will solve the problems. It's not particularly fair. It's not accurate. And the fact of the matter is, I mean, if you go and you talk to a woman, she's probably going to say, you know what, I don't need you to solve my problem, and I don't necessarily want you to solve my problem. You don't necessarily have the solution I need. I just want you to listen. Can you do that for me? Can you just listen to me? Can you connect with me? And it's interesting because I would say that this is something that I've gradually been figuring out in the last year or so. And I'm 47 years old, okay, guys. So if it's taken me this long, it's taken me a long time to figure this out. And honestly, I think it takes men a long time to figure this stuff out because we're so focused on our perspective that we don't necessarily step into the perspective that we need to that a woman needs us to. So, like, as a guy, right, I would say that I learned early on that, like, okay, you have like a blow up on the playground or whatever. Like, okay, figure out what it is, solve it, and move on. That's kind of the solution. Like you solve the problem and you move on, and everyone kind of gets back to playing, because that's what's important. The game is important, the competition, etc. That's how men are. That's how men learn. And it's not a bad thing. It's just the way it is. But it's worth stepping out of that and considering that for a woman, that's not necessarily what she wants from you. And I want to keep in mind too that these statements that I'm making are general statements, and I'm making them from the perspective of just the observations that I have made and the stories that I've heard. And you know what? Take it with a grain of salt. I could be wrong. Observe for yourself. I'm not trying to tell you how to run your life. I'm trying to give you some perspective, because perspective can open the doors of possibility and turn them into reality. And I don't know about you, but I prefer to have a relationship that is deep and intimate and connected. I want my partners to be able to look at me and be like, this is a man I can trust. And this is a man I want to open up to. This is a man I feel safe with, and a man I want to connect with, and a man I want to be affectionate with and open up to. And I haven't always done that very well. I have definitely sometimes been the problem solver. When I've been with different partners in the past, they've come and they've said, "Oh, this is going blah blah, this is going on blah blah blah," and my response has been like, "Okay, I need to solve this." And you know what? I didn't need to solve it. They didn't want me to solve it. But that's the way that I had been raised. It's the perspective that I learned. What I've learned in the last couple of years in particular is I don't need to solve other people's problems, and I'm not qualified to solve other people's problems. I can offer advice if somebody wants it. And if you're watching this video, you presumably want that advice. No one's forced you to click play after all. But like if you and I were talking person to person and you're sharing a thing, I would hear it out and then I would listen, and I might say to you at some point, would you like some advice? And if you were like, yeah, I want some advice, then I'd be like, okay, then here's some advice that I have for you. What I don't do anymore, and I haven't done it for a while, is I don't offer solutions readily. And it's interesting because I would say in my current relationship, sometimes I'll be listening and my sweetheart, she'll say to me at a certain point, she'll like, well, what are your thoughts on this? Like she'll be like, well, like I'm waiting for you to say something. And I'll be like, well, I was listening. I was listening and just focusing in on what you were saying, and not like I didn't want to assume that you wanted an answer. What I've learned to do there is I've learned to ask, like, would you like some advice, or do you want to hear my thoughts on this? And I think it's still a little bit weird for her at times, like, oh, like he's actually taking the time to ask me instead of just offering it. But that's because I've realized that if I just go and I offer it, that's me just assuming that I have the answer. You know what? I don't have the answer. And I think one of the hardest things for men, but it's one of the most important skills to learn, is how to lean into that feeling of I don't have the answer. I don't know how to solve this problem, and accept it and get comfortable with it. Because when you get comfortable with the fact that you don't have the answer, you can actually build a safer container. Your woman wants to trust you. She wants to believe that you can be there for her. But the truth of the matter is, the only way she's going to really see that is if you display consistent behavior. We're going to talk about this. This is just the first video in this. We're going to be talking about this quite a bit in the next few weeks, because part of it is just because, again, as a man myself, like I am continually working on myself. I'm continually having realizations, and I'm continually digging in deeper to how can I show up better for myself and be a better person for me? How can I show up and be a better man in the world around me? How can I be a better friend and a brother? How can I be a better mate? How can I be a better lover? How can I be, these are questions that I ask myself, and it's not because I want to. It's not coming from the motivation of I want to do this so that this person isn't going to get upset. I would say at one time it was. At one time I approached things from that way. I was approaching it from that way because I felt like, well, I've got to solve this person's problems, or I got to make things right, or I have to have the answer. You know what? I don't have to have the answer, and I don't have the answer a lot of the time. And I'll admit that one of the harder moments for me sometimes is just sitting and listening to somebody share their fears and their anxieties and their worries. Because there's this initial part of me that's just like, I want to rush in and save the day. I want to rush in and be the hero. But I'm not. I don't have the answers. I might have ideas. I might have a perspective. I might be able to come up with something that might be helpful, but I don't have the answer. And assuming I have the answer is actually disrespectful to her, and it's disrespectful to me. It's disrespectful to me because it's putting me on the spot. It's putting pressure on myself, and it's not allowing me to show up from a place where I can actually build genuine trust and safety. You talk about trust and safety and how they go. Your woman wants to know that you're trustworthy. She wants to know that you are going to do what you say. So if you say, I'm going to take out the trash, that you're going to actually go and take out the trash. Not that she's going to have to remind you, but that you're going to get up, get the trash out, and that you're going to do it consistently. And you're not going to tell her every single time that you've taken out the trash or you cleaned the bath. Like, you're not going to be like, oh, I'm going to clean the bathroom today. No, you're just going to go and do it. And you might say after the fact, hey, I cleaned the bathroom. And that's okay. I mean, that's perfectly okay to say that. But you're not going to do it from a place of, well, I'm going to tell her what I'm going to do. No, you're just going to do it. You're going to be consistent about it. That's one thing that women want to see. They want to see consistent follow through on actions. That if you said you're going to do something, that you're going to actually do it, and that she doesn't have to remind you. She wants to be able to come home and relax into the environment and know that you have everything, that you have the container. And it doesn't mean that you always have the answers. It doesn't mean that you're not uncertain, or that you can't be vulnerable or anything. Like, please don't don't be the man, and I've been this man. Don't be the man who keeps everything to himself, bottles it up, and tries to project to the world that he's fine. Your woman will see through that so quick, and she will distrust you in an instance. And I've had that happen. I've said I'm fine. And then a moment later, my girlfriend is angry at me, and she's like, you've activated me. You're not fine. I know there's something going on with me, and you're not letting me in. And if I'd said to her, hey, I've got a lot on my mind. It's not really about you, but it's just the stuff that's weighing on me. If I had said that, she would have been like, okay, I believe you, and I trust you. I trust that you will come to me when you're ready, and I understand that you need some time to think and feel your way through this, and I'm okay with that. Like, that would be a better response. That would get me further, and it's the same thing for you. So if you're a man and you're kind of like, my relationship isn't that great right now, brother, I got to tell you, look towards yourself. How are you showing up? What men don't realize, and this is a hard truth for men to realize, this is a hard truth for me to realize, on level with you, is that the burden of the relationship is on you. It is not on her. And you might say, that's not fair. Why do I have to be the one who's responsible? The truth of the matter is, are you looking toward her hoping that she's going to be trustworthy? I got to level with you. I don't think men think that way. I don't think that way. I mean, I want to trust my partner. Don't get me wrong. I want to trust her. And there is I am looking for consistency from her as well. But if I'm really being honest about it, and I am being honest about it here, I think a lot of the time men get really caught up on the idea that, like, well, I've got to have my shit together and everything else, and I got to solve the problems. I got to be on top, like that's what matters. And at the same time, it's like I want to have a peaceful and harmonious home. You know what? You're not going to always have a peaceful and harmonious home. Sometimes you're going to have to accept that. And the best way you can accept that is by showing up from a place of authenticity, being open, recognizing where you might be falling short. And you're doing this not because you have to prove anything to her or to anyone else, but because you recognize in a fundamental level that one of the most important actions that you could take is to show up from a place of vulnerability and authenticity. Like, you want to build trust with a woman, you've got to show up and say, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what's going on with me. Trust and safety go hand in hand. A woman does not feel safe if she does not trust you. And every time you do something that brings up distrust, whether it's small or big, it makes her feel less safe with you. And I would say that the small acts of distrust are actually kind of worse in a way. It's the little inconsistencies, because the big acts suck. Don't get me wrong. Like, if you went and you lied to her about something, that just sucks. And there's no getting around it. But if it's the little inconsistencies that really add up. Like when you said it, like, I'm going to take on a chore, and then you drag your feet about it, or you do something else where you're not showing up authentically in integrity every single time. It adds up. And it's something that says to her, well, here's consistency. I can't rely upon this man. He doesn't have my back. He's not showing up. I can't trust him that he's going to be there for me when I need him. Guys, if you want to have a better relationship with your woman, you have got to reframe your perspective and think about, am I being trustworthy? Am I showing up and consistently doing what I say I'll do? Am I being honest about where I'm at and what I'm at? And guys, I get it. It's terrifying. It is scary as fuck to let somebody else in. We are taught not to let people in because we are taught that if we let people in, we're going to get hurt. And that's something that women don't realize. In all honesty, women do not realize this about men. We have been taught that if we let somebody in, we're going to get hurt. Because that's what's happened. We were taught that by our dads. Because if we let our dad in, then we'd be told, like my dad would tell me what a disappointment I was all the time. Was I going to let him in? Fuck no. Was I going to let my stepmom in who grounded me all the time? Fuck no. And that set up, and here's the irony of it all, that set up a foundation of distrust. So guys, do you see here how trust actually is a part of your DNA? Like, and what you've been taught to do is distrust. But if you want your relationship with your woman to work out, you have to flip that around and start trusting her. You have to be, and you have to trust her by being vulnerable with her. You have to be able to say to her, I'm not fine today. It's not about you. It's work, or it's something else. I just got a lot going on and I need to figure it out, and I'm trying to, and maybe I could use your advice later on. Do you know how much your woman would trust you and feel safer with you because you let her in? That's one of the most important fundamental skills that men need to learn. And it's a skill that we have to work hard at. You know, I applied this today in a couple different ways. Like, you know, just attuning to my partner, really paying attention to her, really listening to her, and admitting I didn't have, like, I wasn't trying. I said to her, like, I'm not here. I can't solve your problems, but I'm here for you. I want to listen. I want to be here for you. And it was interesting because when I showed her that I was willing to show up, I watched how it changed. Like there was just kind of like this, like, I can trust him. I could feel that from her. And it wasn't an automatic like I can trust him completely. No, but it was like I can trust him a little bit more. Because here's the thing, man, you will always, always, always have to earn her trust. You cannot assume that you have it. The moment you assume you have it, you've lost it at that point. No, you have to earn her every single day, okay? And you have to earn her trust every single day. And that means that you constantly have to show up. And guys, I get it. It can be exhausting. It can be intimidating. It's like, oh, I got to step up. Guess what? You do have to step up. You have to step up. If you don't step up, she's not going to believe you. She's not going to trust you. She's not going to respect you. If you want a peaceful home, you have to actually learn to lean into the moments where there is conflict and recognize that most of the time it's not about you. And if it is about you, you take ownership for it and accountability for it, and you show her that she can trust you. You will get through the storms a lot quicker that way. And say this because I've been that man. I have been that man who has not done that, and it has cost me relationships. And I am learning that in the current relationship I'm in. That when I show up in the way I should be showing up with honesty and integrity, she trusts me more. But when I do something, and it could be a little thing, it could be telling her I'm fine when I'm not, I lose her respect and I lose her trust. And she doesn't feel safe with me. You know what? At the end of the day, I want her to feel safe with me. I want her to be like, wow, I can trust this man. I can trust him to be vulnerable with me. I can trust him to be consistent. I can trust him. And I want it not because I hope I'll get something out of it, okay? It's so easy to get caught on that because you might be thinking to yourself, okay, well, if I follow Taylor's advice, this is going to get me laid more often, or this is going to, you know what? Put that out of your mind. You are not doing this for any specific result. You're doing this because you love her and you want to show up, and you know that if you do, it can lead to a better relationship in whatever form that is. That's why I'm doing it. It's not to get a specific result. And I'll admit that if you'd asked me that a week ago, it would have been different. I would have been saying, yeah, I'm trying to for a specific result, but I've let that go. Because I had a fundamental realization as I was around this, where I'm like, what am I doing to build trust? I put it on myself. I'm like, what am I doing to build trust? And I saw where I wasn't building trust. And I'm like, I'm changing that. I'm flipping that around. That's what I got to focus on. Not what I'll get, not what'll happen. I will build trust. I'm going to show her she can trust me and rely upon me, and I'm going to focus on creating a safe environment for her. Because I want her to feel safe with me. I want her to be like, yeah, he loves me and he will do, he can be vulnerable with me. He can be open with me. He will be consistent with me, and I can trust him. I don't need him to solve my problems. I don't need him to make everything better. And I don't have to be happy for him all the time. I can be me, and he can handle it when I'm unhappy or upset or sad or any of those other things. He can handle those feelings and be there for me and be a container for me. He can let me be the wild, powerful woman that I am. And he can actually be secure in his masculinity and be confident. And I can trust him because of that. That's what I want. And that's what you should want. The rest, in whatever way, shape, or form it needs to, will sort itself out in your relationship. It'll show up in the way that is best. But don't get attached to a specific outcome. Do this because it's the right thing to do to make your relationship better. I'm gonna be continuing to do a video series on this, so keep your eyes peeled. If you're on my channel for the first time, like and subscribe. And if you're a woman, please share this video with men in your life. Like if you find yourself nodding your head and you're kind of like, yeah, he's right about this, please share this with other men. I want to help men become better. Men become better romantic partners, become better friends, and I need your help. Thank you very much, and I appreciate you all watching this video.